I've actually done both Taekwondo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and there's one fundamental difference between the two, and that is Taekwondo is primarily focused on hitting and kicking and punching. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's not even one of the options. You're primarily grappling. All you're doing is you're grabbing onto people, you're trying to take them down, and the way you win is you get them to give up, and they can say the word tap, they can tap on you, they can tap on the mat. That just means they quit. And usually someone quits if they have a choke, like someone's choking them, or if one of their joints is bent like a little bit too far, like a wrist lock or an arm bar. And that's like the very core fundamental difference between any striking martial art and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I actually think the difference goes a little bit further than that, because in Taekwondo, a lot of the things that people are used to doing and the things that they do to practice is learning forms. I think they call them katas. There's different names for it. But in Taekwondo, people will often learn a set of movements that involves blocking and punching and striking, and they flow together, and it's supposed to create a movement pattern that you remember and you get ranked based off of that. And it's supposed to teach you more about the martial art in general. And there's also a sparring aspect of it. And the sparring aspect of Taekwondo can range from heavily based on points to more based on just doing actual damage, like trying to knock people unconscious. And that's a little bit more extreme form of sparring versus trying to really focus more on points, like the traditional, I guess, Olympic style things. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu exists on that spectrum as well, but there are no forms at all. It doesn't exist. There's no way to remember, like you can string some moves together. You could do a takedown, a guard pass, an armbar, but no one's ever going to teach you a set of moves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you remember it, and then you show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a progression that doesn't exist in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at all. The overwhelming majority of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like, here's another belt, it's just given to you by your instructor when he kind of thinks you're ready. Like, generally there's been enough time. You know, sometimes people can compete and you can score points and stuff like that, but for the most part, you go and you get better at getting people to give up. So you get them off their feet, you take them to the ground usually, because when someone's on the ground, there are more ways you can manipulate them into quitting. And on top of that, it's much harder for them to hit you and generate enough power to knock you unconscious. I'm sure if you've done Taekwondo, you know that you have to put your hips into actual motion. Like, you don't generate it just from your arms with a punch like this, you put your whole body into it. So if you're on the ground, it's much harder to generate movement like that to knock somebody unconscious. So in theory, it's safer to take somebody to the ground in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the reason I practice is not for like any kind of fighting or anything like that. I practice because it's fun. And it's so fun, and people are talking about it so much that there's whole communities on YouTube about dorks like me and other people who literally just sit here and talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and explain what it is.